Grandma, I fixed your future. That's how the call started. No, hello. No, how are you feeling today? Just those 7 words. By the time my granddaughter hung up, I had lost my savings, my home on paper, and the last illusion I had about the child I'd helped raise. Before I tell you how it happened, do one thing for yourself and for me. Tap like so this story reaches more people. And tell me in the comments what city you're listening from. I want to see how far one grandmother's warning can travel. My name is Helen Morris. I'm 71 years old. For 35 years I worked as a nurse, night shifts, holidays, missing family dinners while other people's children got better. Because of my hands, I bought a small 3-bedroom house with peeling paint and a stubborn rose bush out front. It's where I raised my only daughter, Claire, after my husband died young. Later, it became the place where my granddaughter, Lily, spent weekends building blanket forts and eating burnt pancakes. Lily is 27 now. She calls me Gran when she wants something and Helen when she's angry. As a little girl, she was all freckles and questions, forever asking why and how. I saved every crooked drawing she handed me, every Mother's Day card where she scratched out Mom and wrote Gran instead. I thought love and sacrifice would be enough to raise a good person. I was wrong. The first sign that something was off came about 4 months before everything crashed. Gran, Lily said one Sunday afternoon, clearing my dinner dishes before I could stand. I've been looking at your mail. You're drowning in paper. It's not safe. Anyone could steal your information. She had that bright, impatient energy young people have about anything older than a smartphone. I've managed this long, I told her, folding the napkins she'd left in a heap. She rolled her eyes, then softened. I know, but you shouldn't have to. Let me help. We'll put everything online. Automatic payments, digital statements. If anything ever happens to you, I'll have access and can handle it. It's just smart planning. No one had ever offered to plan for me before. I'd always been the planner, the fixer, the one staying up late with a calculator and a knot in my chest. So when she set my tablet in front of me and asked, "What's your email login again?" I told her. "Just write all the passwords down." "Gran," she said, sliding a floral notebook toward me. "Bank, retirement, utilities. I'll tuck this away in my safe. You know I'm your emergency contact anyway." A small voice in my head whispered, "This is too much access." But a louder voice answered, "She's your granddaughter. You trust her, don't you?" The second sign came a few weeks later when Lily brought her boyfriend, Jason, to visit. He works in tech, which seemed to mean he was always half listening, half scrolling. They didn't just sit and talk. They inspected. Jason tapped the walls, peeked into the attic, stepped out back and stared at my yard like he could already see a real estate flyer superimposed over it. "This neighborhood is up and coming," he said finally, like he'd discovered gold. "Lots of developers sniffing around." "You sitting on a paid-off house here, Helen?" "It's home," I answered. "That's all I need it to be." Lily laughed and wrapped her arm through his. "Gran, you could sell this place. Get a cute condo with an elevator. Stop worrying about mowing the lawn. Think about how much cash you'd have left over. You could enjoy yourself for once." "I enjoy myself just fine here," I replied. But something in my chest felt unsteady. "Stay with me, because this is where the ground starts to shift." One quiet Thursday, I did something I rarely do. I logged into my retirement account, the one I'd built dollar by dollar from decades of double shifts and "I'll treat myself next year" lies. 2 months earlier, it had just over $180,000 in it. Not wealth, just safety. The page loaded. My balance blinked up at me. 5/12/40. I thought my eyesight had finally betrayed me. I cleaned my glasses, refreshed the page. 5/12/43. My hands began to shake. I opened my online banking, accounts I usually let Lily handle now. My savings, my checking. The tiny account I'd once labeled Lily's college and never quite closed. Every single one told me the same story. Empty. If your stomach just dropped, imagine how it felt living it. Right then, as my world tilted, my phone lit up with her name. "Gran," she chirped, bright and bubbling with excitement. "I did it. I fixed your future. You don't have to worry about money ever again." "Fixed my future?" I repeated, clutching the phone so hard my fingers hurt. "Lily, what are you talking about?" She giggled like this was some reality show reveal. "Gran, don't freak out, okay? I moved your money into better vehicles. High-yield stuff. I paid off some necessary things, optimized everything." "You're welcome." "Necessary things," I whispered. The numbers from my accounts were still burned into my eyes. Did you take my retirement money? Gran, she sighed, like I was a stubborn child. It was just sitting there doing nothing. Inflation is eating it. Jason showed me the math. This way, that money's working for all of us. Our startup, your long-term care, everything. My throat went dry. All of us? Well, yeah. It's kind of like a family fund now, she said. We're launching the co-living wellness project next month. We needed capital fast, and you're always saying you don't know what to do with your savings. Now you don't have to worry. I opened my mouth and no sound came out. She kept going, words tumbling over each other. Oh, and before you get mad, you should know we solved your housing situation too. You know that paperwork I had you sign last winter? The inheritance streamlining stuff? Jason's uncle is a broker, and he found a buyer. We closed yesterday. We got a great offer. My heart stopped. Closed on what, Lily? On the house, Gran. She said it gently, like she was easing me into a bad diagnosis. Don't panic. You don't have to move today. You've got 30 days. We already put a deposit on a much safer apartment building, with an elevator. Doorman, the whole thing. Way better for you at your age. For a moment I truly thought I might pass out. You sold my home? I whispered. It's our asset, Gran. I'm your only grandchild. It was going to be mine anyway. Jason said it's just smart to unlock that equity now while the market's hot. You'll thank us later. Let me stop here and ask you something. If your own grandchild called you, cheerful as a TV host, and told you they'd emptied your accounts and sold your house for your own good, what would you do? Would you scream, cry, beg? I didn't do any of those things. I went very, very still. Lily, I managed. Did I ever tell you that you could do this? You signed the papers, she shot back, suddenly defensive. Remember? After your fall in December, you were terrified about being a burden. Brought everything to the rehab center. You said, handle it, sweetheart. I trust you. I wrote it down. I remembered December, the pain in my hip, the haze of painkillers, the dizzying stack of forms they kept handing me, insurance, physical therapy, release forms. Lily had stood at the foot of my bed, flipping pages for me. Sign here, Gran, here and here. It just means I can help if something happens. I remembered my hand shaking, the pen dragging, her warm palm on my arm. Okay, I heard myself say now. I need to think. Gran, I can't talk long, she said briskly. We have a pitch meeting. But listen, we're having a little engagement. Party tomorrow at the new place we're renting downtown. You have to come. We'll show you everything. You're going to love what we've done for you. What you've done to me, I corrected, but she was already talking over me. You'll see, this is the beginning of something amazing. Trust me. Then the line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, the ticking wall clock suddenly loud as a hammer. The room felt unfamiliar, like I was standing in a stranger's house wearing my own skin. My accounts empty. My house sold, apparently. My future fixed. I pulled out a chair and sat. The laminate edge dug into my trembling hands. Minutes slid by. Or maybe it was an hour. I couldn't tell. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. And then, very softly at first, something unexpected bubbled up in my chest. A sound, not a sob. A laugh. It started as a shaky exhale, then grew, spilling out of me in waves until I was laughing, ugly, breathless, tears streaming down my face. Because my sweet, foolish granddaughter had no idea. The house she had just sold out from under me? It wasn't actually mine to sell, and it wasn't the only home I had. I laughed until my sides hurt, until the tears on my cheeks weren't sure if they came from grief or something darker. Because my clever granddaughter, with her tech boyfriend and her family fund speeches, had just pulled the trigger on a gun pointed at herself. She just didn't know it yet. Let me explain. 20 years ago, after my husband died, the hospital tried to come after me for bills he'd left behind. It was one of the worst winters of my life. I was working nights at the hospital where he'd died, then coming home to a house I was sure I was going to lose. My union rep took one look at the letters I'd gotten and said, "Helen, you are not going to be another widow who gets cleaned out." He marched me into a free legal clinic they ran for staff. A tired young lawyer with ink on her sleeves gave me the best advice of my life. Put your house into a trust, now, before anyone else tries to touch it. That way it's legally separate from your personal debts. If something happens to you, it passes cleanly to your child or grandchild. But in the meantime, no one, not a hospital, not a credit card company, no one can sell it out from under you. So that's what I did. The house Lily thinks she just sold? It's been owned for 2 decades by the Morris Home Trust, with 2 signatures required to do anything serious with it. Mine and my co-trustees. And that co-trustee is not Lily. It's Ruth. Ruth is 75, walks with a cane, and has the personality of a bulldozer in a cardigan. She's also the treasurer at my church and the kind of woman who reads legal fine print for fun. The papers Lily put in front of me at the rehab center last December were not trust amendments. They were general power of attorney forms. Sloppy ones too, now that I thought back. Downloaded templates. With no mention of the trust that actually holds my house. Which means this. Whatever Lily sold, it was not the roof over my head. My laughter died down to a tight, bitter little smile as I pushed myself up from the table and walked, slowly, because the hip still complains, to the hallway closet. On the top shelf sits a metal lockbox no one but me and Ruth knows about. Inside, in plastic sleeves, I keep my entire life. The original deed to my house showing the transfer to the Morris Home Trust. The trust document itself with Ruth's neat signature alongside mine. Annual tax statements, always in the trust's name, not mine. And then, in a separate folder, papers for the other property. You see, 15 years ago, when the hospital finally started hiring traveling nurses, I did something small and brave. I bought a tiny 2-unit building a mile from the hospital. A duplex, old, crooked, nothing fancy, paid for with a small inheritance from my aunt and a modest mortgage. I fixed it up slowly, rented to nurses who needed 6-month contracts, kept every lease agreement, every receipt, every text message about broken water heaters. That property, the duplex, is in my personal name, not the trust. That's the address on the sale closure letter. I suddenly remembered seeing half opened on my hall table last week. The one I'd assumed was some mortgage, refinanced junk and pushed aside because my hip was hurting. Not this house, not the place I'm sitting in now. Lily had sold the wrong thing. Or rather, she'd sold the only thing she could touch on paper, my little rental. The one currently occupied by 2 travel nurses with ironclad leases signed for another 12 months. And the buyers? They thought they were getting a vacant, turnkey investment property. They were in for a surprise. I sat back down with the lockbox open and forced myself to breathe. Anger came in waves. At Lily for preying on my trust. At myself for giving her the keys to my passwords, to my heart, to my peace. But underneath the hurt, something else started to form. Clarity. I took out a pad of paper and began to list, in my shaky old nurse handwriting, what needed to be done. Call the credit union. Report unauthorized transfers. Freeze everything I can. Print every bank statement from the last 6 months. Highlight every transaction to Aurora Nest LLC, the fancy name Lily and Jason chose for their co-living wellness empire. Call Ruth, tell her everything. Contact the tenants at the duplex and warn them something strange is coming. Find a lawyer. Not for Lily, for me. My phone vibrated just as I finished the list. It was a message from my downstairs neighbor, Fran. Hon, I saw Lily here last week with some man measuring your front porch. Everything okay? I stared at the message, then typed back. Not yet, but it will be. Coffee tomorrow? Because here is the part Lily has never understood about me. I may be old, I may be slow on the stairs and bad with phones, but I have lived through burying a husband, fighting off bankruptcy, and wiping the tears of strangers at 3 a.m. for 3 decades. I am not easy prey. Let her clink champagne glasses at that engagement party with my stolen money. Let her show off her brilliant investments. She thinks she's rewritten my future. She has no idea I've just started rewriting hers. I didn't sleep that night. I made tea I didn't drink, walked circles through my dark little house, and kept opening the lockbox as if the papers inside might suddenly vanish. Around 7 a.m., when the sun finally smeared light over the neighbor's rooftop, I picked up the phone and dialed the number on the back of my bank card. Fraud department, the woman said. How can I help you today, ma'am? I think my granddaughter has been stealing from me, I said, and heard my own voice crack on the last word. That was the first time I said it out loud. She asked security questions, then pulled up my accounts. I'm seeing multiple transfers to an entity called Aurora Nest LLC over the last 3 months, she said. Do you recognize that? Yes, I answered. It's my granddaughter's company. I did not authorize any of those transfers. Silence. Then her tone shifted. warmer, more careful. All right, Ms. Morris. We're going to open an elder financial exploitation case. I'm freezing. Online access to your accounts, right? Now, and placing a temporary hold on further transfers to that business. You may get some calls. Let them go to voicemail. We'll need you to come in and sign some forms. My hands shook with a strange mix of shame and relief. Thank you, I whispered. I trusted her. You're not the first, she replied softly. And you won't be the last. But you called. That matters. Let me ask you something. When did you last look at your own statements line by line? Would you even notice if someone you loved started shaving from them? If you don't know the answer, don't wait until your world collapses the way mine did. After I hung up, I texted Fran downstairs. Coffee still on? 5 minutes later, I was at her kitchen table. Her apartment always smells like lemon cleaner and cinnamon. It's one of the few places I still feel young. She listened as I told her everything about the accounts, the house, the trusts, the duplex. Fran used to work as a clerk at the county courthouse. Nothing shocks her, but this came close. That girl's playing with matches in a dry forest, she muttered, stirring sugar into my cup. You need a lawyer. Not tomorrow, today. And you need to get ahead of whoever bought that rental before they show up with a U-Haul and a bad attitude. Do you know anyone? I asked. Her eyes brightened with purpose. Retired judge from my court volunteers at the senior center. She's always nagging me to send her real problems so she doesn't get bored. You, my dear, are a real problem. She picked up her phone. By noon, I had an appointment with an attorney named Elena Ruiz, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who specialized in elder, law and housing issues. Before I went to see her, I made one more call.
Ruth.
What did that girl do? Ruth demanded before I'd even finished my first sentence. Her voice could have cut glass. I explained about the sale, the rehab center signatures, the trust. Helen, listen to me, she said firmly. The trust is fine. No one can touch this house without my signature too, and I haven't signed a blessed thing. Whoever thinks they bought it, didn't. We'll get the trust lawyer to update the records and flag the title. Lily can scream all she likes. Legally, you're sitting in a fortress. A fortress. The words settled over me like armor. At Elena's office that afternoon, we spread my life out on her polished desk. Deeds. Statements. Lease agreements. She adjusted her glasses and tapped a manicured finger on each document as she talked. Okay, she said. Here's where we stand. Your primary residence is insulated by the trust. Your granddaughter's power of attorney doesn't override that. Good planning, by the way. I managed a weak smile. I had help. The duplex, though, she continued, that's trickier. She had access to your bank accounts and, with that sloppy power of attorney, just enough authority to convince a careless title company she spoke for you. The sale is technically valid between them and the buyers. But your granddaughter and her little company, they may have just bought themselves a stack of civil lawsuits, especially if the buyers weren't told about the tenants. They weren't, I said. I know Lily. She would have promised them the moon to get the cash fast. Elena nodded. Then we do this. We notify the title, company in writing that you're alleging fraud and elder exploitation. We alert your tenants so they don't panic when strangers start knocking. We file a police report. Not because you're vindictive, but because if you don't, this pattern will repeat. With you or with someone else. She looked me straight in the eye. Ms. Morris, this is not a family disagreement. This is a crime. You are allowed to protect yourself, even if the person hurting you shares your blood. I swallowed. She invited me to an engagement party. Tomorrow. They're using my money to celebrate. Her mouth tightened. Then go. Smile. Eat their cake. Don't confront them yet. Let us build the wall around you first. When they hit it, then we'll see how sorry they are. On the bus ride home, I watched my reflection in the window. White hair I stopped coloring years ago. Lines etched from nights at other people's bedsides. Hands that had held newborns and the dying. And my granddaughter the first time they placed that tiny bundle in my arms. I didn't recognize the expression on my own face. It wasn't just hurt anymore. It was resolve. The next evening I put on my nicest dress, the navy one. I'd worn to 3 funerals and 1 wedding, pinned on my mother's brooch, and rode an elevator up to a rooftop loft, pulsing with music I didn't understand. Lily turned when I walked in, her wine glass halfway to her lips. Her face lit up. Gran, you made it! She squealed, hurrying over in sparkles and perfume. Wait till you see what we've built. You're going to be blown away. Oh, sweetheart, I said, kissing her cheek, tasting expensive champagne on her skin. You have no idea. Klein, Module 5, Toasting with My Stolen Future. The elevator doors opened into a room full of other people's youth. Exposed brick, hanging plants, glass walls framing the city lights, music thumping just loud enough to make my hearing aids complain. Everywhere I looked were high-waisted pants, white sneakers, and drinks with herbs floating on top. Gran! Lily flew toward me in a sparkle of sequins and perfume. She smelled like money and jasmine. You look amazing. I let her kiss my cheek and squeeze my hands. You did all this in a week? I asked, letting my eyes travel over the rented furniture. The glowing Aurora Nest sign on the back wall. She beamed. When you have capital, things move fast. Come on, I want you to see the deck. She tugged me toward a projector screen where a slideshow was looping. Sunlit rooms with lots of plants, people doing yoga on balconies, phrases like ethical co-living, and intergenerational wealth in sleek fonts. On the last slide, my own house appeared, my maple tree, my crooked front steps. Underneath it, in bold letters, my stomach lurched. Like it? She asked, eyes shining. That's you, Gran. You're literally our foundation. You're our angel investor. Let me ask you this. If your grandchild put your home on a slideshow and called it a legacy asset, would you feel honored? Or like a museum piece waiting to be dismantled? Jason appeared at Lily's elbow, one hand already on the small of her back like he owned her. Helen, he said, turning that practiced smile on me, none of this would be possible without your trust. Early believers are everything. I smiled tightly. I didn't realize I believed in anything yet. I thought I just signed hospital papers. Lily's fingers dug a little into my arm. Gran, don't start, she murmured. Tonight is a celebration. People kept coming up to us, friends of theirs, other startup kids. A few older men with watches so heavy they dragged at their wrists. This must be the famous grandma. One of them boomed, already a few drinks in. The original LP, huh? Smart girl, unlocking that dead equity. My parents just cling to their house like it's a life raft. Another young woman in a blazer nodded approvingly. I wish my grandparents were this progressive. Mine freak out if I even mention reverse mortgages. They were talking about me like I was both a genius and a fool. I let them. I smiled, nodded, asked small questions. Tell me again, I said to Jason when we were briefly alone at the hors d'oeuvres table. How did you move the money so quickly? The bank didn't question it. He shrugged, smug. Power of attorney, Helen, magic words. Once the paperwork's in their system, you're just a click away from liquidity. We structured it as investment disbursements to Aurora Nest clean as a whistle. Did I ever sign anything about Aurora Nest? I asked lightly. Technically? He said, popping an olive into his mouth. No. But the POA lets us act in your best interest. And what's better for you than being on the ground floor of something big? We're aligning incentives across generations. It's a win-win. A win-win? For them, certainly. Across the room, Lily clinked a spoon against a glass. Everyone! She called. Can I have your attention for just a sec? The music lowered. Faces turned. I just want to say thank you, she said, cheeks flushed with champagne and adrenaline. To my incredible fiancé, to all of you for believing in us. And especially to my grandmother, Helen. A small spotlight found me. I resisted the urge to duck. She worked her whole life in a broken system, Lily went on, voice catching theatrically. She never had anyone to optimize for her, but she trusted me to make sure she's taken care of. She gave us the chance to turn her hard work into something bigger for all of us. She raised her glass toward me. To Helen, our first investor, and proof that it's never too late to build generational wealth the right way. People cheered, glasses lifted. A few phones pointed at me, recording, immortalizing my humiliation in tiny, glittering rectangles. Inside, I was shaking. Outside, I smiled and lifted my water glass. To Lily and Jason, I said, may you always be as certain as you are tonight. They took it as a blessing. Lily leaned down and whispered in my ear, breath warm and wine sweet. See? Everyone thinks what we did is smart, modern. You're going to have the best care. Gran, trust me. I didn't answer. Because right then, Jason's phone buzzed on the bar beside us. He glanced at the screen and I watched the color drain from his face. Babe, he muttered, grabbing Lily's elbow, I need you. Now. They stepped aside, but the loft wasn't big, and their voices carried just enough for fragments to reach me. What do you mean, flagged? Jason hissed into the phone. We already moved those funds. A pause. No, she's fine, she's just old. You guys approved everything last week. You can't freeze it now, we've got vendors to pay. Another pause, longer this time. Lily's eyes flicked to me across the room, sharp and sudden. As if a thought had just formed she didn't like. My own phone stayed silent in my purse. Elena had warned me, once we file, things will start shifting behind the scenes. Don't react. Let the paperwork do the talking. Jason hung up, jaw clenched. What? Lily demanded in a whisper. Bank fraud department, he said tightly. Someone reported elder exploitation. They've frozen the Aurora, Nest account and launched a review. And there's more. The title company called twice. Something about occupancy issues. At the duplex and potential misrepresentation. He ran a hand through his hair, rattled for the first time since I'd met him. Who would do that? Lily whispered, eyes narrowing. Her gaze landed on me again. The woman in the navy dress, holding a glass of water, smiling like she'd swallowed a secret. Let me ask you, if you were me, would you have walked over and told them everything right then? Or would you have done what I did, stay put, sip your drink, and let their own deeds start to close in around them? Because within 48 hours, the beautiful little empire they were toasting in that room would start to unravel, thread by ugly thread. The engagement party was on a Saturday. By Monday morning, the storm had a name, a case number, and a paper trail. At 8:12 a.m., my phone rang. Ms. Morris? This is Elena Ruiz. I sat down before I even answered. Good morning, dear. I saw some interesting phone calls last night. She didn't waste time. The bank finished their preliminary review, she said. They've frozen all outgoing transactions from your accounts and from Aurora Nest LLC, pending a full investigation. The title company handling the duplex sale has acknowledged our fraud complaint. They've put a hold on releasing any remaining funds from that closing. So they don't have the money? I asked. They have some, Elena said, but they can't touch the rest. And the buyers? They're furious. They thought they were getting a vacant property. Your tenants aren't going anywhere. On cue, my other line lit up with a familiar name. Hold on, Elena, I said. That's probably them. I switched over. Hello? Helen? It's Dina from upstairs at the duplex, a breathless voice said. We've got a situation. My little rental building, the one Lily had sold out from under me, had 2 units, Dina, a travel nurse, and her colleague Marcus. I'd chosen them carefully. On time with rent, quiet, hardworking. What's going on? I asked, bracing myself. There's a couple here with a real estate agent, Dina said. They're claiming they own the building now. They're talking about renovations and new leases. Marcus is losing it. Put me on speaker, I said. A moment later, I was talking into the air of a tense stairwell. This is Helen Morris, I said, voice steady. Who am I speaking to? A man cleared his throat. This is Andrew Collins. My wife and I purchased this property last week through Willow Ridge Title. We closed on a vacant duplex. That's what the paperwork says. I see, I replied. Well, Andrew, I'm the legal owner on record, and I never authorized a sale of occupied units without honoring my tenants' leases. I've already retained counsel and filed a fraud complaint. I suggest you contact your title company and your attorney. In the meantime, my tenants are not to be harassed or displaced. Is that clear? A beat of stunned silence. You mean your granddaughter didn't have the right to sell this place? His wife's voice cut in, tight with anger. She said many things, I interrupted gently. You were misled. But your fight is with the people who took your money, not the people who have been living there peacefully for months. We'll be in touch, the man muttered, and the line went dead. I switched back to Elena. They're there, I said simply. The buyers. At the duplex. They had no idea. Good, she replied. The more people who realize they've been lied to, the less this looks like family drama, and the more it looks like what it is. Organized financial fraud. Let me pause and ask you. If this were your grandchild, would you still be telling yourself, it's just a misunderstanding, it'll blow over? Or would you be starting to understand that family doesn't cancel out felony? By late afternoon, the storm hit my own front door. 3 hard knocks, not a neighbor's tap, the kind of knock that expects obedience. I opened it to find Lily on the porch. Eyes blazing, Jason just behind her, tight-lipped and pale. What did you do? She snapped, brushing past me into the hallway without waiting to be invited. I closed the door calmly and followed them into my own living room. Hello to you too, sweetheart, I said, sitting in my armchair. Have a seat. You look like you've had a long day. We just had our accounts frozen, Jason said through his teeth. The bank is throwing around words like elder, exploitation and suspicious, transfers. The title company won't release the rest of the funds, and now the buyers are threatening to sue. This is a nightmare. Lily whirled on me. You called the bank, she accused. You called lawyers. You're sabotaging us, Gran, after everything we did for you. Did for me? I repeated quietly. Is that what you call draining my life savings and selling property behind my back? It wasn't behind your back, she insisted. You signed the forms. You begged me not to let you end up in a home. You said you trusted me. I trusted you to bring me soup and pay the electric bill, I said. Not to gut my accounts and hand my renters to strangers. Jason stepped closer, his voice lowering. Look, Helen, we get that your overwhelmed change is scary, but if you tell the bank you're fine, that you authorized the transfers, they'll unfreeze the money. We can make everyone whole. Otherwise, this blows up for all of us. I'm not overwhelmed, I said. I'm disappointed. Something in my tone must have landed because Lily blinked. You don't understand, she tried again, softer. We weren't stealing. We were reallocating. You have no idea what we can turn this into. You'll have better care than any of your friends. You'll never have to budget again. And if your businesses fail? I asked mildly. She laughed, desperate. They won't, but even if they did, Jason cut in smoothly, we'd find a way to pay you back. We're not monsters. Not monsters. Just two people who had decided my savings were a down payment on their dreams. I've spoken with an attorney, I said. The air in the room changed. And with the bank. And with the title company. And with the police. Lily's face went white. The police? She whispered. I nodded. They have a special unit for crimes against older adults. Apparently, this sort of thing is very common now. Children, grandchildren, reallocating. You went to the cops on your own family? Jason burst out. That's insane. No, I said quietly. What's insane is what you did with a drugged-up woman's signature and a sense of entitlement. Lily's eyes filled with tears, angry ones. You're going to ruin us, she said. Do you get that? You'll destroy my company, Jason's reputation, our future. You're going to make me the girl who put her fiancé in jail. I felt my own tears burning, but I held her gaze. You did that the day you chose my bank accounts over my trust, I said. I am just telling the truth. Jason grabbed Lily's hand. Come on, he muttered. We're done here. We'll fight this in court. As they reached the door, Lily turned back. You're going to die alone, you know, she said, voice shaking. Don't expect me at your bedside after this. The words landed like knives, but I'd already been cut deeper by my own signature on papers I hadn't understood. They slammed the door. An hour later, I called Elena back. No more hesitation, I told her. File whatever needs filing. Press whatever charges apply. I won't be their victim quietly. Because here's the truth. No one tells grandmothers. You are allowed to choose justice over guilt. You are allowed to protect yourself, even from the people you once rocked to sleep. The detective who called me sounded younger than my granddaughter. Ms. Morris, this is Detective Alvarez with the Financial Crimes Unit. We received a report from your attorney, Ms. Ruiz, and a related complaint from Willow Ridge. Title, I'd like to schedule a time to speak with you. Do I have to come down there? I asked, feeling suddenly very small in my tidy kitchen. It would help, he said gently. Bring any documents you have. You're not in trouble, ma'am. You're the one who got hurt. Those words, you're the one who got hurt, hit harder than I expected. Because up until then, I'd still been telling myself a softer story. That Lily was confused, misguided, that this was a misunderstanding wrapped in bad advice. Walking into a police station made it real. Elena met me out front, a slim folder under her arm, her heels clicking sharp on the concrete. Remember, she said quietly as we walked in, you're not here to punish anyone. You're here to tell the truth. That's all. They led us to a small interview room, gray walls, metal table, 2 chairs on each side. I'd seen rooms like that on television, never from the inside. Detective Alvarez introduced himself, a man in his early 30s with tired eyes and a wedding ring that had left a pale band on his finger. He turned on a small recorder. "Ms. Morris, I'm going to ask you some questions about your finances and your relationship with your granddaughter. Take your time. If you need a break, say so, okay?" I nodded, folded my hands to keep them from shaking. He started with basics. Where I banked, rough balances before everything changed. When I'd first given Lily access. Then he asked the question that cut the deepest. Why did you trust her with everything? I stared at the tabletop for a moment. Because I love her, I said simply. Because I watched her take her first steps in my living room. Because when her mother went through her second divorce and forgot to pack Lily's favorite blanket, I drove across town at midnight to get it. Because I wanted to believe that all the sacrifices meant she would choose me when it counted. I looked up, met his gaze. She chose the money instead. He didn't write for a moment. Just let that hang in the quiet. Let me ask you, if the person you love most showed you, clearly, that you ranked below their ambition, would you still keep handing them matches and standing next to the gasoline? He asked about the rehab center, the signatures, what I remembered. Elena slid copies of the power of attorney form, the trust documents, the lease agreements, the bank statements across the table one by one. Alvarez's pen moved steadily. When did you first realize there was a problem? He asked. When I saw my balance, I said. And when my granddaughter called to tell me she'd fixed my future. A muscle in his jaw ticked. We've already spoken with the buyers of the duplex, he said. They state your granddaughter told them the tenants would be out by the end of the month, that she was handling it. We also have the title company confirming they relied on the POA she presented. Combined with the bank records, this isn't a gray area, Mom. Will she? I couldn't quite form the word. Be charged? He finished. That's up to the DA, but I'll tell you this off the record. If her name weren't on your birth announcements, we'd have no hesitation. Taking funds like this from a stranger her age would be a straightforward felony case. He clicked off the recorder. Thank you, Ms. Morris. We'll likely need you to testify later. Your attorney will prepare you. For now, go home. Rest. We'll do the heavy lifting. I thought that would be it for the day. I was wrong. As Elena and I stepped into the hallway, we almost collided with another pair being led toward a different room. Lily and Jason. She stopped short when she saw me. For a second, all the polish cracked, and I saw my little girl again, eyes wide, lower lip trembling. Gran? She whispered. Jason recovered first. Don't say anything, he muttered to her, but she was already talking. How could you? She burst out, voice echoing down the corridor. You brought police into this? A passing officer glanced over. Alvarez stepped between us, professional now. Ma'am, you'll have a chance to speak in the interview room, he told her. Not out here. Lily's eyes locked on mine over his shoulder. You're really going to sit in there and act like I'm some kind of criminal? She demanded. After everything I've done for you? You're going to let them put this on my record? I felt Elena's hand on my elbow, steadying me. I'm going to sit in there and tell the truth, I said quietly. What happens after that isn't my choice anymore. It's yours. It always was. The hurt on her face morphed into something harder. You think they won't look at you too? She spat. At how confused you are. At how you didn't know what you signed. You're making yourself look incompetent. Don't come crying to me when they take your rights away. Jason tugged at her arm. Lily, now. They disappeared into another gray room. I stood in the hallway, heart hammering. The fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. For the first time since this started, I understood something clearly. No matter what I did from here on out, press charges or back down, testify or go silent, I had already lost the version of Lily I'd been clinging to. The only question now was whether I'd lose myself, too. That night, Elena called with an update. The DA is moving forward, she said. They're preparing charges, financial exploitation of an elderly person, fraud, possibly forgery if the notary piece checks out. There'll be an arraignment soon. You don't have to go, but you can if you need to see it. See my own granddaughter standing in front of a judge. Could you do it? If you're not sure, wait until you hear what happened in that courtroom. The day the law finally said out loud what my heart already knew. The arraignment was on a Wednesday morning, the kind of gray, drizzly day that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. Fran insisted on coming with me. You're not walking into that place alone, she said, sliding her arm through mine as we approached the courthouse. If I have to miss bingo for this, so be it. Inside, the ceilings were too high, the benches too hard, and the air too cold. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. Elena met us outside the courtroom, a stack of papers tucked under her arm. "Remember," she murmured, "you're just observing today. You won't have to say anything. The judge will read the charges. Your granddaughter will enter a plea, and that's it. It'll go fast. Fast for her, maybe. For me, each second felt like walking through wet cement." We sat in the second row. The wooden bench creaked under Fran's whispered commentary about everyone's shoes. I tried to focus on my breathing. Then the deputy called a name that didn't seem real to me anymore. People v. Lillian Carter. She walked in from a side door, not from the public seating, hands cuffed in front of her. The sight of that bright, familiar girl in a tan jail jumpsuit knocked the breath from my chest. For a second, all I saw was 5-year-old Lily in a yellow raincoat, dragging a too-big backpack down my hallway. She turned, scanning the room. Her eyes found me like they always do. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then she lifted her chin as if daring me to look away. The judge, an older man with a trimmed beard and the tired patience of someone who's seen too much, adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Carter," he began, voice carrying clearly across the room, "you are charged with the following offenses." He read them off one by one, each word a small blow. Financial exploitation of an elder, theft over $50,000, fraudulent real estate transaction, forgery, pending confirmation of document analysis. Each one had a statute number attached. Each one carried years. Lily didn't flinch until he got to the possible penalties. For a total maximum exposure of up to 12 years, incarceration and substantial financial restitution, if convicted. Her fingers tightened around the chain linking her wrists. "Let me ask you, if you heard that kind of time tacked to your child's or grandchild's name, would you have wanted to rush forward and say, 'Forget it, I'll eat the loss'?" Part of me did. The part that had held her hand crossing busy streets, that had sat in school gymnasiums clapping for her terrible flute solos. But another part, the one that had watched her sign my name on things, I didn't understand. The one that had heard her say, "I'd die alone," sat very, very still. "How do you plead?" the judge asked. Her lawyer, a sleek woman in a navy suit, stood. "Your Honor, Miss Carter pleads not guilty to all counts." Not guilty, the words hung there, pretending this was an unfortunate mistake instead of a pattern of choices. The prosecutor, a serious woman with a stack of files almost as tall as mine, rose to argue for conditions. "Your Honor, the defendant has already demonstrated a willingness to move large sums of money rapidly, to misrepresent facts to financial institutions and private buyers, and to target a vulnerable relative. We are asking for strict bail conditions, no contact with the victim, and restrictions on access to financial accounts." "No contact with the victim. That was me," her lawyer countered smoothly. "Judge, my client is a first-time offender with strong community ties and a fiancé ready to vouch for her character. This is a family dispute that's been escalated unnecessarily into a criminal matter. We'll show that Ms. Morris consented and that any misunderstandings can be resolved civilly." There it was again, family dispute, as if my emptied accounts and forged signatures were the same as arguing over Thanksgiving plans. The judge listened, eyes moving between them, then settled on Lily. "Ms. Carter, until this case is resolved, you are to have no direct or indirect contact with Ms. Morris," he said. "No calls, no messages through third parties, nothing. Bail is set at an amount your attorney and the state seem to agree on, with the condition that you do not engage in any financial work involving client funds." He banged the gavel. It was done. As the deputy led her away, Lily twisted to look at me one more time. Her lips moved around words I couldn't quite hear, but I could read them anyway. "How could you?" I didn't have an answer that would make sense to the girl she still believed she was. Outside on the courthouse steps, the prosecutor caught up to us. "Ms. Morris," she said, "I just wanted to say pursuing this is hard. Most people your age don't. They're scared or ashamed. You showing up makes it easier for the next person to do the same." "Do you think she'll go to prison?" I asked. She didn't sugarcoat it. "If we prove what we think we can?" "Yes," she said. "Probably. There's a lot of money missing, and a lot of people hurt. Judges don't like patterns like this." That night I stared at my ceiling, replaying the sound of the charges over and over. 12 years. My granddaughter. My signature. What kind of woman asks the system to punish her own blood? The trial started 9 months after that gray arraignment morning. By then, my hair had grown out another inch. My hip ached a little less, and the story had escaped our family and leaked into the local news. Grandmother testifies against granddaughter in alleged fraud case. It made for good headlines. It felt like a bad dream. Jason had already cut his deal with the DA, pleading to lesser charges in exchange for cooperation. He sat behind the prosecution table now, eyes fixed on the floor, no sparkly lily on his arm. She was at the defense table, in a neat blazer, hair pulled back, looking much younger than 27. The judge explained the process to the jury. The lawyers made their opening statements. I watched them each build their stories, one brick at a time. The prosecutor's version was simple. A vulnerable older woman, a trusted granddaughter, access, opportunity, and a trail of money leading straight into Aurora Nest's accounts. Lily's lawyer told a different tale. A progressive young woman trying to help an aging relative. A grandmother overwhelmed by modern finance. A miscommunication blown out of proportion by lawyers and hurt feelings. And then it was my turn. Ms. Morris, please come forward. I walked to the witness stand with my cane tapping out each step. My hand shook a little as I swore to tell the truth. When I sat down, the chair felt too big, the room too quiet. The prosecutor started gently. Ms. Morris, how long did you work as a nurse? 35 years, I said. Mostly nights. Did you save during that time? Yes, little by little. I didn't have much. But I made sure bills were paid, house was paid off, and I put what I could into retirement. She walked me through the basics, the accounts, the house in the trust, the duplex. When I gave Lily my passwords, what happened at the rehab center, then she asked the question that mattered most. Did you ever, at any time, give your granddaughter permission to empty your accounts and sell your rental property for her business? No, I said, and my voice came out stronger than I expected. Never, not once. She nodded. Why did you sign the papers she brought you in rehab? Because I loved her, I said. Because I thought she was bringing me insurance forms. Because I was groggy and in pain, and I didn't think my own granddaughter would slip anything else in front of me. Did you understand at that time that those papers would give her the power to move your money and sell your property? No, I said again. If I had, we would not be here. Let me ask you, if you were sitting there with a dozen strangers judging your family, would you have told the whole truth or tried to soften it? Then came cross-examination. Lily's lawyer rose, expression smooth. Ms. Morris, you're 71, correct? Yes. You've said yourself that technology confuses you sometimes? I prefer paper, I said. That doesn't make me confused. She smiled like she was humoring a child. Of course. But you've forgotten things lately? Misplaced your keys? Missed appointments? I forget small things, I replied. Not $50,000 conversations. When I stepped down from the stand, my legs felt weak, but I also felt something I hadn't in a long time. I felt like I had chosen myself. The rest of the trial blurred. The bank officer testifying about flagged transfers. The title company rep explaining how they'd been misled. The duplex tenants describing the strangers who tried to push them out. Jason, voice shaking, admitting under oath that he'd told Lily to just get Gran to sign. She won't know the difference. The jury went out. 3 hours later, they came back. On the charge of financial exploitation of an elder. Guilty. On the charge of theft over $50,000. Guilty. On the charge of fraudulent real estate transaction. Guilty. On the charge of forgery. Guilty. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. Her shoulders shook once, twice. Sentencing came a month later. The judge listened to impact statements. The buyers of the duplex, my tenants, me. When it was my turn, I stood slowly. I didn't want to be here, I said. I wanted to be in my garden or at bingo with my neighbor or reading a book. I wanted to believe my granddaughter would never do what she did. But wanting and truth aren't the same. I took a breath. I am not asking for vengeance, I told the judge. I am asking you to show her what I could not. That other people's lives are not stepping stones. That trust is not a credit line. He sentenced her to 5 years in state prison, eligible for parole after 3, plus restitution to me and the other victims. As they led her away, she didn't look at me. I can't tell you that I felt triumphant. I felt like something soft inside me had torn. It's been 2 years now. I still live in my little house. The trust held. The duplex mess is mostly untangled. Restitution drips in slowly, like a leaky faucet. Small checks, garnished wages from Jason's new job. It will take years to make me whole financially. Emotionally, that's a different kind of math. With Elena's encouragement, I started running a monthly workshop at the senior center. How to protect yourself even from people you love. I show other grandparents how to read statements, what powers of attorney should and shouldn't do, how to say no. Every time someone comes up to me after and says, "I think my nephew's been helping himself to my card," I feel the pain of my own story turn into something almost useful. Do I miss Lily? Every day. Do I regret holding her accountable? No. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's surrender. Maybe one day she'll write from wherever she is. Maybe we'll sit across from each other again, older and changed, and find some kind of new truth between us. Or maybe we won't. Either way, I am not required to sacrifice my safety on the altar of someone else's comfort. No matter what they call me. Not mom, not gran, not blood. If you're still here, thank you for listening to my story all the way to the end. Now I want to hear from you. What would you do if your child or grandchild did this to you? Do you believe I was right to choose justice over guilt? And where in the world are you listening from? Tell me your city in the comments. I want to see how far this little grandmother's warning can travel. If this story hit you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Like on this video so more people see it. Share it with someone who might be ignoring the red flags in their own family. Comment your thoughts and your city. I read every single one. And Huckers, subscribe. If you want more real stories like this, so you don't miss the next chapter, protecting yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you'll ever do.